The grand space station floated quietly above a glowing planet, its silver rings turning slowly in the dark. Ships came and went, shining like small sparks around it. Inside, people from many worlds gathered for an important meeting called the Peace Accords. Every group wore its own colors and signs, and the air was full of soft voices, light music, and the sound of translators whispering in the background. Among them was a young man named Ethan Cole. He was from Earth, a world still new to the great interstellar stage. Many still thought humans were strange, too emotional, too daring to open. They built machines quickly, but they also laughed loudly and cried easily. To some, that made them unpredictable. To others, it made them inspiring. Ethan had been chosen as one of the youngest human envoys to attend the gathering. His senior officer said he was good with words, respectful yet brave, and able to make others trust him. But Ethan felt he was just lucky to be there at all. As he stepped into the main hall, he looked around in wonder. The roof arched high above, filled with shining crystals that changed color to mimic the sky of every world represented. Tables of food and drinks stretched along the floor, and groups of delegates stood in careful circles, talking in low voices. Ethan's uniform was simple, dark blue with silver edges, a small badge showing the flag of Earth on his chest. He felt proud, but also nervous. So many eyes watched him and the other human representatives with quiet curiosity. Then he saw her. At the far end of the hall stood the daughter of the ruling family from one of the great and ancient kingdoms. She was called Princess Alara. Her people were famous for their calm and grace. They spoke little and moved like water, smooth, measured, perfect. No one ever saw them show joy or anger. They believed that calmness was the sign of wisdom. Alara wore a gown that shimmered softly like morning light, and her silver hair fell neatly behind her shoulders. Every motion she made looked like part of a dance. Ethan was immediately fascinated. It was not only her beauty but the silence around her, the way people seemed to give her space as if she were made of light itself. Still, there was something lonely in her stillness. She looked across the hall from time to time, her expression quiet, her eyes reflecting the soft glow above. As the music changed to a soft melody, people began to walk and speak more freely. Ethan found himself beside the long viewing window that looked out over the stars. He was trying to calm his excitement when he heard a gentle voice behind him say, "You are from Earth, yes." He turned quickly and saw Princess Alara standing near him. For a moment, he could only stare. He had not expected her to speak first. "Yes, Your Highness," he said, almost bowing before stopping himself halfway. "Ethan Cole, diplomat second class." Alara gave a small nod. "Your people speak with much energy," she said. "It is interesting." Her voice was soft, even like clear water touching smooth stone. Ethan smiled awkwardly. "We try our best to keep things lively," he answered. "Sometimes maybe too lively." He expected her to laugh, but she just looked at him, her bright eyes calm and unreadable. For a short moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of voices filled the background, and pale light from the planet below moved across the glass floor. Ethan wanted to say something clever or polite, but the words that came were simple, almost childish. "Your eyes are beautiful," he said quietly. He had not planned it. Slipped out like a breath, natural and true. Her eyes were indeed beautiful soft silver, with light flecks that seemed to move like stars trapped in a quiet sea. When she looked at him, he felt a strange calmness, as though time had slowed. But the silence that followed was not calm. It was heavy, sharp. Alara's eyes widened slightly, her perfect control breaking for the first time. She drew in a breath and took a step back. Round them, nearby guests turned their heads, sensing something had happened. Ethan realized too late that he might have said something wrong. In his culture, a compliment was a sign of respect and honesty. In hers, it could mean something far deeper, something intimate or forbidden. He felt the heat rise in his face. I meant no disrespect," Ethan said quickly. "I only meant that is enough," Alara said softly. Her voice was not angry but cold, as if she were trying to hold something back. She gave a small nod, gathered her trailing gown, and left the hall without another word. Ethan stood alone at the window. The music played on, slowly returning to normal. Conversations resumed, though he felt eyes still glancing toward him in curiosity. He barely heard a soft voice behind him from another human envoy, asking what had happened. He did not answer. He only looked out at the stars, wondering how a few simple words could cause such silence. And somewhere deep in that silence, something new had begun, something neither he nor the calm princess could yet understand. The bright lights in the grand hall slowly dimmed as the music ended, but Ethan still felt the sharp weight of what had happened. The glass walls showed the stars turning outside, yet he could not enjoy the view. The words he had spoken ran again and again through his mind. "Your eyes are beautiful." It had felt natural, kind, honest. But now it seemed that those simple words had set a storm in motion he did not understand. People were whispering. Wherever Ethan turned, heads tilted toward him, and quiet voices followed. Some looked sorry for him, others looked amused. He had only been on the station for one day, and already he had made a mistake that might reach every corner of the galaxy. He walked out into the long corridor to clear his head. The polished silver floor reflected his swirling thoughts as he passed guards and servants who pretended not to see him. When he reached his small quarters, he collapsed in the chair by the round window. The stars outside blinked quietly, innocent and far away. He pressed his palms to his face and let out a long sigh. "Great," he muttered to himself. "First day on duty, and I insult royalty." He remembered the way Alara had looked at him, not angry, but shocked, almost frightened. What did it mean? Why did that simple compliment carry such power? A message light blinked on his desk. The signal meant an official notice. Ethan tapped the console, expecting a warning or suspension. The screen came alive with the calm image of Captain Doran, the human chief envoy. The captain's voice was tense. "Ethan, what did you say to the princess?" Ethan tried to explain, but found his own words clumsy. "Gosh, I just said her eyes were beautiful, that's all. I didn't mean anything strange." The captain sighed. "Among her people, speaking about the eyes is a very private matter. It can mean a vow." "You might have just proposed something without knowing it." Ethan blinked. "A vow? I was just being polite." "Well," said the captain, rubbing his temples, "polite in our way, yes. But cultures differ. We will try to calm the situation. Do not speak to her again unless ordered." Ethan nodded silently, though his mind was far from calm. The connection closed with a faint click. He leaned back and stared again at the stars. "A vow," he whispered. "That explains her face." The next day passed like a long, uneasy dream. Meetings continued, speeches echoed through the halls, but Ethan noticed subtle changes. Some guards now followed him with their eyes. A few delegates from other nations kept their distance, whispering behind their hands. He tried to focus on his duties, taking notes, sending reports, smiling at the right moments, but every time a certain silver color appeared at the edge of his vision, his heart jumped. By the evening, he was walking through the quiet gardens beside the main dome. Huge plants glowed faintly under the artificial sunlight. He thought he was alone until he heard footsteps behind him. When he turned, he froze. It was her. Princess Alara stood among the glowing leaves, her face as calm as before. The soft light touched her silver hair, and her long gown moved like water. For a moment, Ethan could not speak. He half expected guards to appear, but there were none. "You should not be walking alone," she said quietly. "This station can be unsafe for one who is now the subject of talk." Ethan smiled weakly. "If I caused trouble, I'm truly sorry. I didn't mean any harm." Alara looked at him for a long moment, her eyes serious but not cold. "Do you know what those words meant in my language?" He shook his head. "No, I don't." She took a slow breath. "When one of my people tells another that their eyes are beautiful, it means they see their soul. It means they accept their heart without mask or defense. It is said only once in a lifetime." Her voice softened. "So when you said that before all the others, I could not believe it." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "Then I must have looked foolish." "No," she said, "only honest. Too honest, perhaps." She tilted her head slightly. "Most of us spend years learning to hide what we feel. But you humans speak your minds without fear, even when it costs you. It is rare among my people." He studied her face, trying to read her thoughts. "Does that mean I'm forgiven?" Alara looked away, her eyes on the floating lights above the garden pond. "Forgiveness is not needed. But I do not yet understand you. You say what you feel as if it is simple. Where I come from, emotion is like fire, beautiful, but dangerous. It can destroy." "Maybe," Ethan said softly, "but sometimes fire gives warmth too." For the first time, A faint smile touched her lips, barely there, fragile as light. "Perhaps," she said. "You are not what I expected from your kind." Before he could answer, she turned to leave. Her gown whispered against the stone path, her steps light and careful. She paused once at the edge of the garden and said, "I will speak with you again, human. There is more I must learn about the world you come from." When she was gone, Ethan stood still for a long time, as the soft lamps changed color slowly from gold to deep blue, marking the station's night cycle. He felt not relief but wonder. The princess had not banished him. She wanted to understand him. Maybe that mistake had opened a path to something neither of them could have planned. He looked up at the stars again. Somewhere beyond them was Earth, small and bright, full of people who spoke from the heart. Maybe, he thought, that was what made humans different. They felt first and learned later. Tonight that was both his punishment and his gift. The morning on the great space station began with soft music echoing through the long halls. Ethan woke to the sound and blinked at the silver ceiling of his small room. The uneasy feeling from the day before still stayed in his chest. He thought of the princess, her calm face, and her quiet words in the glowing garden. He had expected anger or shame, yet instead she had shown curiosity. She wanted to understand him, to understand what made humans speak with such open hearts. He dressed in his simple uniform and stepped into the corridor. Everyone still looked at him differently. Some gave him polite nods. Others whispered when he passed. The story of his accidental compliment had already spread across the station. Small talk sensed something bigger behind those words. And in a place where politics ruled everything, gossip moved fast. Still, Ethan held his head high. He was not sure what would happen next, but running away seemed worse than facing it. Later that day, a message arrived. It was sealed with the royal crest. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. The message was short. "The princess requests your presence in the observation hall at the 10th hour." There was no reason mentioned, no explanation. Ethan frowned and whispered to himself, "So soon?" When the 10th hour came, he walked through the long marble corridor that led to the observation hall. The high doors opened silently, and he stepped inside. The hall was empty except for one tall figure standing near the great window. The planet below shone like a blue pearl, its soft clouds moving slowly. The princess turned when she heard him enter. "Ethan Cole," she said in her quiet, steady voice. "You came. I could hardly refuse a royal invitation," he said with a nervous smile. She moved closer, her long gown brushing the floor. "Yesterday I told you how those words you spoke hold deep meaning among my people," she said. "But I also told you I wished to understand your kind. Will you tell me about your world? I wish to know how humans live, what they value, what they fear." Ethan nodded. "Of course. I grew up in a small town by the ocean. Humans work, dream, fight, and make peace just like others. But we're not very good at hiding what we feel. We'll laugh too much, argue too fast, and forgive too easily. Somehow that's part of who we are." Elaru, still calm but listening, deeply walked beside him along the window. "Why do you show emotion so freely?" she asked. "Do you not worry that others will see it as weakness?" Ethan smiled gently. "Maybe they do. But hiding what we feel is harder than speaking it. When we care about someone or admire something, we show it. Maybe that openness makes us weak sometimes, but it also helps us connect, helps us build trust." She looked thoughtful. "Among my people, trust comes from control. If one shows no feeling, then others know you are not easily moved. You are strong." And yet, Ethan said quietly, "When you spoke with me in the garden, I saw something different. You looked moved then. It didn't make you weak." The princess turned to him, silver light glinting in her hair. "You noticed that?" "I notice everything," he said, a small smile at his lips. "You seemed surprised but alive, freer than before." For a brief moment, she said nothing. Then she sighed. "Way of talking, your honesty, it confuses me. I have spent years preparing to rule someday, to control every word, every thought. When you spoke those simple words, it felt like something broke open inside me. I did not know whether to be afraid or grateful." "Maybe both," Ethan said softly. "Sometimes the best things begin with fear." A long silence followed, filled only by the distant hum of engines. The princess looked back out the window. "Ethan, when I was a child, I dreamed of visiting other worlds, seeing how different they were. But when I became older, that dream faded under duties and lessons. You remind me of that dream. He looked at her with quiet wonder. Dreams are worth keeping alive. Maybe that's why we humans survive so many mistakes. We never stop dreaming. Her eyes met his, then calm, but brighter. I begin to understand now, she said. You meant no disrespect that night. You gave me something rare, honesty without expecting reward. Ethan lowered his head slightly. And you gave me patience when you could have given anger. A faint smile touched her lips. Perhaps we both learned something. She turned away, her voice now almost a whisper. Still, the council is not pleased. There are those among them who see our meeting as danger. They do not trust your kind yet. Ethan took a breath, then let them watch. I'll give them no reason to fear. The princess studied him carefully. Be cautious, Ethan Cole. You are honest, but honesty can shake thrones. He smiled a little, and maybe every throne needs a little shaking now and then. Her smile widened briefly before she turned toward the door. You are strange, she said, but I think I want to know more of your kind. When she left the hall, Ethan stayed behind, staring out the window. The planet turned slowly beneath him. He felt the tension of the coming days building in the air. But also something new, a fragile thread between him and the princess, made not of duty or politics but of understanding. The words he had spoken by accident had started to build a bridge. Though that bridge might soon be tested, he knew he would not regret crossing it. The days after the meeting in the observation hall passed quickly. But the mood on the great space station began to change. Whispers grew into quiet arguments behind closed doors. Ethan could sense that something was wrong, even when people smiled politely. There was pressure in the air, like a storm waiting to break. He continued his daily work with the human embassy, typing reports and sending messages to Earth, but his mind wandered often. Every time he saw the royal crest appear on a communication screen, his heart jumped, hoping it was her. At first there was nothing, but late one evening another message was delivered to his room. It said simply, "Meet me in the library at the 9th hour." Ethan arrived early, not wanting to seem nervous, but failing to hide it anyway. The library was silent, except for the soft hum of light panels that floated between tall shelves. He stood there among the rows of ancient books and digital scrolls, breathing in the faint scent of paper and metal. Then he saw her. The princess entered quietly, her face half hidden by a pale veil. 2 guards waited at the door, but stayed outside. She walked toward him with graceful steps. Her eyes looked softer than usual. "I am sorry to keep meeting in secret," she said slowly. "I cannot speak with you openly. The council believes I am too young to make wise choices. They see this friendship as a threat." Ethan nodded. "I understand. I never meant to cause trouble." "You did not," she said, shaking her head. "It is not your fault. The council was already uneasy about humans. You are a reason they can point to. They fear what they cannot control." "That seems to happen a lot," Ethan said, trying to lighten the tension, but his joke only made her sigh. "Today they spoke of you," she said. "Some wanted you removed from the station. One of them said you insulted the crown. Another said you bewitched me with words." "That is not true," Ethan said firmly. "I respect you. I just spoke honestly." "I told them that," she said. "Said your words were a test of understanding, that you said it knowing our customs and played your part well. It was the only way to protect you." Ethan blinked. "You told them it was a test?" A faint smile appeared on her lips. "It was the only story they would believe. They accepted it for now. But it may not last if one of them learns the truth." He felt a rush of gratitude mixed with worry. "Ash, you saved me from disgrace." "I saved our peace," she said quietly. "If they had punished you, it might have broken the fragile trust between our peoples. Could not allow that." A silence passed between them, not awkward but thoughtful. Ethan studied her face, the calm and strength hidden beneath her gentle voice. "You risked your honor to protect me," he said. "Why?" She hesitated and looked at the glowing tiles under her feet. "Because when you speak, I feel something I have never felt before, Hope," she said softly. "You act without calculation. You remind me that hearts are not machines." Ethan felt his throat tighten. Maybe that's what it means to be human. We follow our hearts even when the mind warns against it. She looked up at him again. and sometimes it ends in disaster. Sometimes, he said, but sometimes it changes everything. The princess took a small step closer. They are watching us, Ethan. Every move we make.
You're hot.
If they find out we are meeting, they will not forgive either of us. He nodded. Then let's give them nothing to fear. No secret meetings. No lies. Just truth. That would be dangerous, she warned. They will twist the truth to suit their power. Then we'll show them another kind of power, Ethan said. The power of honesty. Her eyes studied him for a long moment, shining faintly in the soft light. You are bold, Ethan Cole, she said finally. Perhaps too bold. But I think I understand why your people survived so many struggles. He smiled a little. We learn to keep walking forward even when others tell us to stop. She gave a quiet laugh, the first he had ever heard from her. It was light and surprising, as if the sound itself had been waiting for years to escape. That is a strange lesson, she said. Maybe I can learn it too. The sound died quickly when the door opened behind them. One of the guards stepped in. Your Highness, the council requests your presence. Ilara straightened, her calm mask returning. Tell them I will come soon, she said. The guard bowed and left. She turned to Ethan. We must be careful now. I suspect something. I'll be careful, he said. But I won't pretend I never met you. She looked at him sadly. You speak like a poet, not a diplomat. He smiled faintly. Maybe the world needs more poets. She paused, then said softly, Good night, Ethan Cole. Good night, Princess. As she walked away, the light from the door faded behind her. Ethan stood alone in the soft glow of the library. The shelves rose around him like silent witnesses to their dangerous friendship. We knew the coming days would bring harder trials, but he also knew one thing with certainty. The princess believed in him now, and that belief, fragile as it was, might be powerful enough to shake an empire. The days that followed were heavy with tension. The great space station no longer felt calm. Soldiers moved more often in the halls, and servants whispered as they passed by. Rumors spread faster than light. Some said the human envoy had broken the royal code. Others said a secret love had begun between him and the princess. Both were dangerous stories for a place built on strict peace. Ethan felt the pressure each time he stepped outside his room. People turned away when he walked past, afraid to be seen speaking with him. Yet despite the fear, he found himself at peace with one thing. He had spoken truth, and the princess had understood it. Whatever happened next, he would not take back his words. One morning, Captain Doran called him to the human office. The captain's face looked tired. Ethan, he said quietly, we received a notice from the Royal Council. They are demanding a formal apology. They claim our actions have caused unrest. If we do not comply, they may cancel the peace accords. Ethan took a long breath. And what do you want me to do? It will stand before the council, the captain said. You will apologize for the misunderstanding, even if you meant no harm. Sometimes peace costs pride. Ethan nodded slowly. If that's what it takes to keep peace, I will do it. But deep down his heart ached. It did not feel right to lie. An apology spoken just to please power would erase everything the princess had taught him about honesty and meaning. Still, he prepared for the ceremony, unsure what would happen. The next day, the council chamber was filled with hundreds of delegates. The room glowed with blue light and hums of quiet voices. Ethan stood beside his commander. Across the room sat the royal family, their faces calm and unreadable. The princess sat beside her father, her gaze hidden under a silver veil. He could not see her eyes, but he could feel them watching him. The elder of the council rose first. Representative Ethan Cole of Earth, the man announced, you are here to address the insult made before our people. You will apologize to restore honor and peace among nations. Ethan stepped forward. His palms were damp, but his voice was steady. I came here to build peace, not to break it, he said. If my words caused offense, I am sorry, but I will not pretend they were empty. When I spoke to the princess, I spoke with respect. I spoke as a human who believes that truth, spoken kindly, should not be banned. A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. The council members shifted in their seats, some angry, others surprised. The elder frowned deeply. Then you refuse to apologize? Before Ethan could answer, The princess rose from her seat. The room fell silent. She took off her veil and looked directly at the council. "Enough," she said in a clear voice. "This man is no enemy. We spoke words of truth that taught me something our people have forgotten. He reminded me that strength is not silence, and that feeling is not shame." Her father, the king, looked uncertain. "Ylara," he said carefully, "you risk much by defending him." She faced the assembly, her voice calm but strong. "I risk nothing by speaking truth. For years our people have built walls between hearts, thinking that calmness makes us perfect, but it only makes us cold. This man's simple honesty broke through that wall. He taught me that peace does not come from silence, but from understanding." The hall remained still. Her words floated through the air like music. Then Ethan spoke again, more quietly now. "We humans are not perfect either. We make mistakes every day. Maybe that is why we learn so much. We admit when we are wrong, and we try again. We follow what we feel, and sometimes that changes the world." The elder looked around the room, uncertain how to answer. Some council members nodded slowly, others turned to whisper among themselves. The king sighed, rising to his feet. "Then let it be recorded," he said finally. "The misunderstanding is ended. Let humanity remain among our allies." The sound of applause began, soft at first, then louder, filling the chamber like a rising wind. Delegates from other nations stood as well, smiling and clapping. The princess turned to Ethan and gave him a quiet nod of gratitude. When the meeting ended and the crowd began to leave, Ethan waited by the grand window. The princess joined him, her eyes bright. "You could have apologized and walked away free," she said softly. "Why did you speak instead?" Ethan smiled. "'Cause you taught me that truth matters more than safety." She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled back, the same small, warm smile he had seen once in the garden. "You are a strange man, Ethan Cole, maybe," he said. "Or maybe just human." They stood side by side, watching the stars beyond the glass as the light of the planet shone below. The noise of the crowd faded behind them, leaving only quiet. The storm that had threatened their worlds was passing. Both of them had changed something far greater than themselves. The princess spoke again after a long silence. "When you said those words to me, "Your eyes are beautiful," I was shocked. But now I understand. You are not speaking only to me. You're reminding us all to see one another truly." Ethan looked at her and nodded. "That was all I meant." The stars shimmered brighter and the great station floated on, carrying hope between worlds. Two people had met by chance, and through simple honesty had reminded a galaxy what it meant to be human.